The maitre d' freezes mid-step as Chef Jason bellows across the dining room. "Get those people out. They don't belong in my restaurant." Chef Jason Whitley's face contorts with disgust as he confronts the elegant black couple seated at his best table. "We don't serve your kind here," he hisses, loud enough for nearby diners to hear. "I need this table for real customers." The woman's diamond wedding ring catches the light as her husband calmly raises his phone. The husband quietly taps a name in his contacts list. Legal department. Chef Jason Whitley stalks through the pristine kitchen of Sapphire Dining Group's flagship restaurant, barking orders at staff who scramble to meet his exacting standards. Tonight carries special significance. Rumors suggest a prominent food critic plans to visit, and Jason intends to cement his reputation as the chain's premier chef. "Polish these glasses again. I can see fingerprints," he snaps at a server. "And tell Marco his risotto is still coming out too wet." The staff responds with tense efficiency, accustomed to Jason's perfectionism that borders on tyranny. The hostess, Emma, approaches with hesitation in her step. "Chef, there's a couple at the front without reservations requesting a table." Jason glances toward the entrance. A black couple stands waiting, the woman in an elegant white dress that accentuates her poised posture, the man in a tailored suit that speaks of quiet wealth. Something about their confident demeanor immediately grates on Jason. "We're fully booked," he declares, despite the visible empty tables in the dining room. "But chef, we have 3 four-tops available, and they seem—" Emma begins. "I said we're booked." Jason cuts her off with a dismissive wave. "Those tables are promised to regulars who might call." Emma returns to the front, only to reappear moments later, visibly uncomfortable. "Sir, they're insisting on speaking with management. They mentioned something about corporate knowledge." Jason exhales dramatically. "Of course they did," he mutters, always pulling that card when they don't get their way. Meanwhile, at the entrance, Marius and Violet Parker exchange knowing glances. 3 weeks into their marriage, they're continuing the systematic review of all 58 restaurants in their recently acquired chain. Their approach is methodical. No reservations, no special treatment, no announcement. To experience their establishments exactly as ordinary customers would. "Ready?" Marius whispers, squeezing Violet's hand. She nods, the diamond on her new wedding ring catching the light. "Remember, we're just regular customers until we decide otherwise." Jason approaches the couple, a practiced smile failing to reach his eyes. His gaze slides over them assessingly, already calculating their worth to his establishment. "I understand there's a problem." His tone immediately frames them as the problem. "Actually," Violet says with measured calm, "we'd like that empty table by the window, the one you're saving for the food critic who canceled 20 minutes ago." Jason's smile falters. How could they possibly know about the critic? His eyes narrow as he recalculates the threat these strangers might pose. "I'm afraid that table is reserved," he lies smoothly. "However, I can seat you here." He gestures toward a table near the kitchen doors, the worst in the house. Marius and Violet exchange a glance but follow without objection. Once seated, Jason signals the staff with a subtle hand gesture they know well. Minimal service, nothing special. "Enjoy your evening," he says with manufactured politeness before retreating to his command post. From the kitchen doorway, Jason observes the couple with growing irritation. The man, Marius, studies the wine list with unmistakable expertise, his finger tracing vintages and regions with practiced familiarity. The woman, Violet, examines the menu not as a customer but as someone who understands restaurant operations, whispering observations to her husband. Their server, Zoe, a recent hire still untainted by Jason's prejudices, approaches the kitchen with their order. "They've ordered the tasting menu with premium wine pairings," she reports. "The gentleman asked detailed questions about our suppliers, and the lady wanted to know why our signature dish differs from the one at the downtown location." Jason scoffs. Trying to impress each other with knowledge they probably Googled before coming, probably spent their whole month's salary to come here and act sophisticated. His sous chef, Daniel, shifts uncomfortably but remains silent. When Marius requests to speak with the chef about a particular wine pairing, Jason sends the sommelier instead. Minutes later, the wine director returns, looking perplexed. "Chef, they seem unusually knowledgeable. The gentleman corrected me on the vintage of our Bordeaux, and the woman asked why we've modified the original recipes from the founder's menu." Jason's suspicion deepens into paranoia. Are they reviewers? Competitors? Corporate spies? He decides to personally deliver their appetizers to assess the threat. Approaching their table with forced congeniality, he presents the first course. Our signature crab cakes with saffron aioli. Violet takes a bite, her expression revealing nothing as she exchanges a look with Marius. "Interesting interpretation of the original recipe," she notes. "Original recipe?" Jason questions sharply. "This is my creation." "Is it?" Marius responds with a smile that somehow feels challenging. Jason returns to the kitchen, pulling up social media searches on his phone, determined to uncover the real identity of these troublesome guests. Jason's fingers move rapidly across his phone screen, searching social media platforms for any trace of the couple. Nothing useful appears. No restaurant reviewer profiles, no food blog mentions, no industry connections he recognizes. The lack of information only intensifies his unease. "They must be using different names," he mutters to himself, pocketing his phone as the couple's main courses finish preparation. He notices his sous chef, Daniel, adding extra truffle shavings and an artistic drizzle of aged balsamic to the plates, special touches reserved for VIP guests. "What are you doing?" Jason snaps, sliding the plates toward himself. "Just finishing the presentation, chef," Daniel replies. "Not for them." Jason deliberately scrapes off the extra garnishes and wipes away the decorative sauce work, replacing it with the standard presentation. They get the regular version, not the VIP treatment. At their table, Marius and Violet immediately notice the difference between their entrees and those being served to other guests. Their plates lack the artful presentation visible on neighboring tables. They exchange a knowing glance but make no comment, discreetly taking photos of the food with their phones. Jason watches from his vantage point as Violet's phone screen lights up with a notification. "All locations data compiled. Ready for your review tomorrow." His suspicions crystallize. They must be connected to corporate somehow, perhaps consultants hired to evaluate the restaurants. He approaches their table mid-meal, hovering over them with barely concealed hostility. "Is everything satisfactory?" His tone suggests he expects complaints. "The concept is excellent," Violet replies with diplomatic precision, though the execution seems inconsistent with the brand standards. Jason's face flushes. "Brand standards? I've been with Sapphire for 8 years. I think I know our standards." "Interesting," Marius says, making a note on his phone. Jason notices Violet has barely touched her wine. An opportunity to assert dominance presents itself. "Not to your liking?" he asks with a condescending smile. "Perhaps something less sophisticated would suit your palate better." Several nearby diners look uncomfortable at his tone. Zoe, their server, hovers nervously nearby. "Actually," Violet begins, but Jason cuts her off. "Look, if you can't appreciate fine dining, perhaps this isn't the establishment for you." His voice carries to nearby tables. "We have certain standards here." The restaurant falls silent. Marius's expression remains neutral, but his eyes harden. "Standards?" "Yes, standards," Jason continues, lowering his voice but making his meaning clear. "We cater to a particular clientele who understand quality." Violet calmly places her napkin on the table. "Are you asking us to leave?" "I'm suggesting you might be more comfortable elsewhere," Jason replies with thinly veiled contempt. Marius stands, helping Violet with her chair. "We'll be going then. But first," he begins reaching into his jacket pocket. Jason interrupts. "No need for a scene. Your meal's on the house. Just go." The couple leaves with dignity, Marius whispering something to Violet that makes her nod firmly. Through the window, Jason watches them make a phone call in the parking lot. In the surveillance camera feed visible from the host stand, Jason sees the couple sitting in their car, making multiple calls with increasingly serious expressions. In their luxury Tesla, Violet's composed facade finally breaks. Her hands tremble not from hurt, but from carefully controlled rage. 8 years of building this company, and that's how he treats people who look like us? Her voice quivers with indignation. I developed half those recipes he's taking credit for. Marius takes her hand, his thumb stroking her wedding band, a reminder of their partnership in both life and business. This is exactly why we're doing the incognito visits. This location has had complaints before, but nothing documented well enough for action. We have it documented now, Violet says, reaching into her purse. She pulls out her corporate phone, different from the personal one she'd used inside the restaurant. I'm calling Rebecca in HR. As Chief Operations Officer of Sapphire Dining Group, Violet rarely pulls rank, but tonight warrants breaking protocol. The call connects immediately. Rebecca, it's Violet. We have a situation at the Westlake location. She details the evening's events with clinical precision, her emotions now locked behind professional resolve. Yes, full documentation, security footage, witness statements, everything. And I want the regional manager here now. Meanwhile, inside the restaurant, Jason returns to the kitchen with a satisfied smirk. The staff avoid eye contact as he passes. That's how you handle troublemakers, he announces to no one in particular. Can't have them ruining the dining experience for real customers. His sous chef, Daniel, approaches cautiously. Chef, are you sure that was necessary? They weren't causing problems. Trust me. Jason dismisses him with a wave. I can spot trouble. They were probably planning some social media stunt for free meals. He notices Emma, the hostess, looking distressed at the front desk. What now? He demands, approaching her station. Chef, the phone's been ringing non-stop. Someone from corporate is trying to reach you urgently. Jason shrugs. Take a message. We're in dinner service. Back in the car, Violet finishes her call with HR. Rebecca's documenting everything. She's also contacting Teresa to come immediately. Marius, as CEO and founder of Sapphire, makes his own call to their legal counsel. Martin, it's Marius. We have a situation. He outlines the evening's events with strategic precision. No, don't shut them down yet. We need to handle this systematically. He details a plan that will address not just this incident, but establish new company-wide protocols. This isn't about punishing one chef. It's about ensuring this never happens anywhere in our restaurants again. Should we use the emergency override codes? Violet asks, referring to their ability to remotely access all restaurant systems, a failsafe they've never needed until now. Not yet, Marius decides. Let's give Teresa a chance to witness this firsthand. Inside, service continues, though an undercurrent of tension flows through the staff. They whisper among themselves, glancing nervously at Jason. Emma approaches him again. Chef, that couple left their card at the front. I think you should see this. Jason dismisses her with a scowl. Throw it away, probably some complaint threat. The hostess persists. Sir, the card has the Sapphire corporate logo, and their names are... I don't care if they claim to know the owner, Jason interrupts. I'm in charge here tonight. What Jason doesn't see, Regional Manager Teresa Alvarez has just parked her car and is reviewing security footage remotely on her tablet before entering. Her expression grows increasingly grave as she watches the entire interaction from multiple angles. As Jason returns to the kitchen, his personal phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. Your actions tonight have been recorded and are being reviewed by leadership. Do not leave the premises after service. Jason stares at his phone screen, reading the anonymous message twice before dismissing it with a scoff. Nice try, he mutters, assuming it's a bluff from the couple he ejected. Still, a seed of doubt takes root in his mind. He opens his email app, noticing several urgent messages from corporate headquarters that arrived during dinner service. messages he'd been too busy to check. The subject lines contain words like urgent, immediate review, and response required. A flicker of unease passes through him. The kitchen doors swing open as Regional Manager Teresa Alvarez enters. Her tailored suit and rigid posture signal this isn't a casual visit. The kitchen staff fall silent, sensing the shift in atmosphere. "I need the security footage from tonight," Teresa announces without preamble. "And I'll need to speak with all staff who interacted with the Parkers." Jason approaches, extending his hand with forced casualness. "Teresa, good to see you. What brings you in during dinner service?" She ignores his outstretched hand. "We have a situation, Jason. I need your office for interviews." "Interviews? What's happening?" His confidence wavers for the first time tonight. "I'm conducting an investigation into tonight's incident with the couple you asked to leave." Jason scoffs, recovering his composure. "Those people were disrupting my restaurant. Whatever complaint they filed is exaggerated." Teresa's expression hardens. "Those people have names, and they didn't file a complaint." She pauses meaningfully. "Yet." As Teresa sets up in his office, Jason notices Daniel, his sous chef, showing her his phone. They speak in hushed tones, Daniel scrolling through what appears to be screenshots of text messages. Messages Jason recognizes as his own past comments about customers and staff. The betrayal stings. Jason's phone rings. It's his friend Marco, executive chef at another Sapphire location across town. "Dude, what did you do?" Marco hisses without greeting. "Corporate is reviewing all managers' conduct. Emergency meetings are being called. Everyone's freaking out." Realization dawns that this is bigger than one complaint from an entitled couple. Jason decides to control the narrative. He approaches Teresa as she exits an interview with one of the servers. "Look, there might have been a misunderstanding," he begins smoothly, "but I was protecting our high-end image. Some guests don't fit our establishment's profile." "High-end image?" Teresa repeats. "By insulting guests based on race?" "That's not... I would never..." Jason sputters. "I didn't know who they were." Teresa's gaze is piercing. "That's exactly the problem. You shouldn't treat anyone that way regardless of who they are." Teresa's phone rings and her expression changes as she answers, "Yes, sir. He's right here, I understand. We'll proceed as discussed." She turns to Jason. "That was Marius Parker. He and his wife are returning with the company's legal team." Panic seizes Jason's chest like a vice. He retreats to his office, hands trembling slightly as he closes the door. The gravity of the situation finally penetrates his defensive shell. He drops into his chair and frantically opens his laptop, typing Marius Violet Parker Sapphire Dining into the search bar. His blood runs cold as their profiles load on the corporate website. The man's professional headshot stares back at him. Marius Parker, CEO and founder of Sapphire Dining Group. Beside him, the woman Jason had dismissed so contemptuously. Dr. Violet Parker, Chief Operations Officer and Head of Culinary Development. The Parkers aren't just executives, they created the entire restaurant chain. Recent news articles celebrate their marriage 3 weeks ago and outline their vision for expanding the business they built from nothing into a culinary empire. A featured article details Violet's journey from culinary school to corporate leadership, specifically mentioning the signature crab cake recipe, the very one Jason had claimed as his own creation, which she developed in her grandmother's kitchen before opening their first location. Jason emerges from his office ashen-faced, finding Teresa organizing the staff in the main dining room. The restaurant's regular closing time is still 2 hours away, but guests are already being approached by servers. "Everyone, we're closing early tonight," Teresa announces with practiced authority. "Please inform guests they'll receive gift cards for the inconvenience." "You can't close my restaurant," Jason protests, his voice cracking. "It's not your restaurant," Teresa corrects firmly. "And yes, I have explicit authority to close this location for emergency review." Jason watches helplessly as guests are apologetically escorted out. Several staff members avoid eye contact with him, while others whisper and glance his way with unmistakable judgment. Zoe, the server who had been kind to the Parkers, approaches Teresa with her phone in hand. I have documentation too. Chef Jason has sent multiple people of color to poor tables, regardless of reservations. I've been keeping notes since I started 3 months ago. More staff begin coming forward with similar accounts. The bartender, the maitre d', even the dishwasher. Jason realizes a pattern of behavior he'd normalized is now being systematically exposed under the harsh light of scrutiny. His sous chef, Daniel, confronts him quietly in a corner. This isn't the first time, Chef. You've been warned about your comments, your seating choices. We've covered for you because we feared for our jobs, but what you did tonight crossed a line. Jason attempts damage control, stepping away to call friends at corporate offices, but messages go unanswered and calls direct to voicemail. When he tries to access the restaurant's reservation system remotely, he discovers his credentials have been revoked. Through the front windows, Jason sees 3 black corporate SUVs pull into the parking lot, Violet and Marius stepping out of the first, followed by men and women in business attire carrying tablets and legal folders. The restaurant stands eerily quiet, emptied of customers, with only key staff members Teresa has asked to remain. Jason considers slipping out the back entrance, but when he tests his key fob against the security pad, the light flashes red. His access has been remotely deactivated. Even the emergency exit would trigger an alarm he can no longer silence. The front doors swing open. The Parkers enter first, followed by their entourage of legal and corporate representatives. Their demeanor has completely transformed from earlier. Gone are the polite, reserved guests who endured his contempt. They now radiate executive authority that commands the room's attention. Jason steps forward, attempting a placating smile that doesn't reach his eyes. Mr. and Mrs. Parker, there's been a huge misunderstanding. That's Dr. Parker, Violet corrects coldly, and Mr. Parker. And there's no misunderstanding. We have multiple camera angles and witness statements. The room falls silent as Marius addresses the assembled staff. For those who don't know me, I'm Marius Parker, founder of this company. His voice carries the quiet confidence of someone accustomed to being heard without raising his voice. My wife, Dr. Violet Parker, is our COO and the creator of our culinary program. We've been conducting incognito visits to all our locations following our acquisition of 3 new restaurant groups. Violet steps forward, her gaze sweeping across the staff before settling on Jason. Tonight was meant to be a standard quality check. Instead, it revealed systemic issues that require immediate action. A woman in a tailored suit distributes documents to everyone present. These are non-disclosure agreements regarding tonight's events, she explains professionally. This is now an active legal matter. Jason interjects, desperation edging into his voice. I had no idea who you were. If I'd known... That's precisely the point, Marius cuts him off, his tone measured but unyielding. You shouldn't need to know someone's status to treat them with basic respect. Violet addresses the staff directly, her voice softening. We're implementing an emergency protocol. This location will remain closed tomorrow for training and review. All staff except management will receive paid leave during this time. Jason watches his authority evaporate before his eyes. Staff members he's intimidated for years now look directly at him, their expressions a mixture of vindication and relief. As for you, Chef Whitley, Marius continues, turning to face Jason directly, you are suspended pending investigation. Please surrender your credentials and access cards. Jason's hand moves to his chest pocket where his ID badge hangs, his fingers suddenly numb as the reality of his situation sinks in. As Jason reluctantly hands over his ID badge, Violet steps closer. By the way, the crab cake recipe you claimed is yours? I developed that in my grandmother's kitchen when I was 24. Tell me again how you created it? The room falls silent as Jason stands speechless before Violet's direct challenge. The sous chef and line cooks exchange glances. They've heard Jason boast about his recipe countless times, claiming inspiration struck during his travels through the Chesapeake region. Jason's mouth opens, but no words emerge. The culinary foundation on which he's built his reputation crumbles in real time. Marius gestures toward the large conference room adjacent to the main dining area. Let's continue this discussion more formally, he suggests, though everyone recognizes it's not a request. Once everyone is seated around the polished table, Marius activates the wall-mounted display screen with a few taps on his tablet. For transparency, we want everyone to understand exactly what's happening. The screen illuminates with the Parkers' professional profiles. Marius's business background unfolds in impressive detail. Founding Sapphire Dining Group with a single location and expanding to 58 restaurants across the country over 8 years. Beside his accomplishments appears Violet's equally impressive trajectory. Her culinary training at world-renowned institutions, her doctorate in food anthropology, and her role developing the company's award-winning menu concepts. 3 weeks ago, Marius explains, we married after 5 years as business partners. As a wedding gift to each other, we decided to experience our restaurants as regular guests would. No special treatment, no advance notice, no exceptions. Violet continues the narrative, her voice carrying both authority and disappointment. We've visited 12 locations so far. 10 provided excellent service. 1 had quality issues but respectful staff. Her gaze settles on Jason. Then there's this location. She taps her tablet, bringing up performance metrics on the screen. Financially, this restaurant performs well. However, customer satisfaction surveys show troubling patterns. The data reveals a statistical anomaly, complaints about selective treatment of guests, primarily affecting people of color. We initially attributed this to statistical noise, Marius notes, until tonight, when we experienced it firsthand. Teresa presents her preliminary findings from the staff interviews conducted over the past hour. I've documented 17 incidents in the past 6 months where Chef Whitley gave preferential treatment based on perceived status or race. Jason attempts to defend himself, desperation edging into his voice. That's absurd. I treat VIPs specially because they're valuable to the business. That's just good hospitality. And how do you identify these VIPs? Violet asks pointedly. Before Jason can answer, Marius displays records from their booking system. Our data shows white customers with similar spending habits and visit frequency are 3 times more likely to receive premium tables at this location compared to customers of color with identical profiles. The evidence continues mounting with methodical precision. Staff testimonials, recorded incidents, Jason's own documented comments in management meetings, all revealing clear patterns of bias he can no longer dismiss as isolated incidents. Jason sinks deeper into his chair as he realizes he's being systematically exposed, not just for tonight's incident, but for a long-standing pattern of behavior. What he considered normal business decisions reveal themselves as discriminatory practices he can no longer justify. Violet stands, her presence commanding despite her soft voice. I built this company's culinary identity from my family's recipes. Dishes my grandmother couldn't serve in restaurants like this because she wouldn't have been welcomed as a customer, let alone as a chef. Marius rises to stand beside his wife. When we founded Sapphire, we established core values of inclusivity and respect, not just as moral principles, but as business imperatives. Restaurants that welcome everyone outperform those that don't. The data is unequivocal. He turns directly to Jason. You violated these principles repeatedly while taking credit for Violet's work and damaging our brand in ways you never considered. Violet pulls up one final slide, the company's founding document with their mission statement prominently displayed. To create spaces where everyone experiences the dignity of exceptional service. This, she says quietly, is what you've been undermining every day. Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., Marius announces, we're holding an emergency board meeting to address not just this incident, but to implement company-wide changes. Chef Whitley, your presence is required, as is your full access to your communication records for the past 12 months. Jason steps through the glass doors of Sapphire Dining Group's corporate headquarters at 8:45 a.m., acutely aware of how out of place he appears. His chef's whites have been replaced by an ill-fitting suit he hasn't worn in years. The modern building's sleek interior houses the operational center of a business empire he now realizes he never fully understood, despite his 8 years with the company. Security escorts him directly to the top floor, where the boardroom door stands ajar. Inside, executives, legal counsel, and HR representatives sit in tense anticipation. Conversations cease as he enters. No one offers to shake his hand. The Parkers arrive last, now dressed in formal business attire that reinforces their authority. Violet wears a tailored navy suit that conveys professionalism without sacrificing identity. Marius projects calm authority in charcoal gray. They take their positions at the head of the table, not as victims of discrimination, but as company leaders addressing a critical business threat. "This emergency session will now come to order," announces the board chair, an older woman Jason has seen only in company newsletters. Marius opens the formal proceedings. "We're addressing 3 separate issues today: the specific incident involving Chef Whitley, the systemic failures that allowed discriminatory practices to continue undetected, and our company-wide response moving forward." Violet adds, "This isn't just about one chef or one location. It's about our responsibility as leaders to ensure our values aren't just words on a mission statement." The company's chief legal counsel presents her assessment first. Based on documented evidence, Chef Whitley's actions constitute clear violations of company policy, state public accommodation laws, and potentially federal civil rights statutes. She outlines the legal exposure with clinical precision, detailing potential liabilities that make Jason's stomach churn. The HR director follows with findings from overnight interviews with staff members. "Our investigation reveals an environment where bias was normalized, and those who objected feared retaliation. This represents a fundamental breakdown of our corporate culture safeguards." Jason attempts to minimize his actions, his voice smaller than he intends. "I've always focused on serving our high-value customers. That's just good business sense." The chief counsel interrupts sharply. "Define high value, Chef Whitley." When Jason struggles to provide objective criteria, the woman displays customer spending data on the presentation screen. "Your so-called high-value determinations don't correlate with actual spending patterns. They do, however, correlate strongly with racial demographics." The meeting continues with a devastating systematic breakdown of how Jason's biases affected operations, staff morale, and customer experiences. Financial analysts quantify the business impact: reduced repeat visits from certain demographics, lower staff retention, and potential brand damage that could take years to repair. A data scientist presents a predictive model showing the compounding financial impact if similar behavior exists across multiple locations, potential losses in the millions over a 5-year period. During a brief recess, Jason overhears executives discussing the company's vulnerability to a class action lawsuit if similar practices exist elsewhere. The legal exposure could be catastrophic, not just financially, but for the brand Marius and Violet have built from nothing. When the meeting resumes, Violet presents the corrective action plan she and Marius developed overnight. "Effective immediately, we're implementing anti-bias training across all locations, revising our reservation and seating policies to eliminate subjective determinations, and establishing an anonymous reporting system for both staff and customers." The board members nod in approval as she outlines concrete steps, timelines, and accountability measures to address the systemic issues revealed by last night's incident. Marius then addresses Jason directly. "As for your future with the company, you have 2 options: resignation with a standard severance package and non-disclosure agreement, or termination with cause, after which we cannot control the public narrative." Jason, now understanding the full consequences of his actions, asks quietly, "Is there any path to remaining with the company?" The head of HR responds, her tone professional, but not unkind. "That would require acknowledgement of wrongdoing, completion of extensive rehabilitation training, acceptance of a probationary position at a different location, and ongoing monitoring." As Jason contemplates his limited options, the Parkers turn to broader issues. Marius announces, "This incident has revealed gaps in our oversight. We're establishing a diversity and inclusion officer position with direct reporting to the executive team." Violet adds, "We're also revising our internal promotion criteria to ensure leadership at each location reflects our commitment to diversity." The board unanimously approves these measures, along with a substantial budget allocation for implementation. Jason sits silently, witnessing the systematic dismantling of the environment that enabled his behavior for years. His career and reputation hang by a thread, dependent now on his willingness to acknowledge his failings and commit to genuine change. The financial director presents implementation costs for the new initiatives. When a board member questions the expense, Marius responds firmly, "This isn't optional. It's essential. Our business model depends on creating spaces where every guest feels valued." The legal team outlines new contractual language for management positions, explicitly tying performance evaluations to inclusive practices. HR presents revised training protocols that will roll out company-wide within 30 days. These changes represent not just crisis management, Violet explains, but an evolution of our corporate identity. We built this company to transform the dining experience for everyone, not just those who've traditionally been welcomed. As the meeting concludes, a PR representative enters with urgent news. Despite the NDAs, social media is exploding with a customer video from last night showing Chef Whitley's confrontation with the Parkers. It's already at 2 million views. The boardroom erupts into controlled chaos as executives pull out phones to view the viral video. On screen after screen, Jason watches himself in high-definition clarity, his contempt for the Parkers playing out for the world to see. The footage, captured by a diner at a nearby table, includes his most damning statements with crystal-clear audio. "We need to respond immediately," the PR director states, already drafting messages on her tablet. "We're trending nationally." The leaked video transforms the situation from an internal matter to a full-blown public relations crisis. What was contained behind corporate walls now faces the unforgiving scrutiny of public opinion. Back in his hotel room, Jason watches in horror as news outlets pick up the story. His actions are dissected by industry publications, social media commentators, and even a morning talk show. His name appears in headlines next to words like discrimination and racism. A food critic he once courted posts a scathing commentary about gatekeepers who poison the hospitality industry. The company calls an emergency press conference for that afternoon. The Parkers must now address the controversy publicly, facing a wall of cameras and reporters hungry for conflict. They approach the podium with remarkable composure, Marius speaking first while Violet stands supportively at his side. "As founders of Sapphire Dining Group," he begins, "we take full responsibility for any failure to uphold our values within our restaurants. What happened to us personally is less important than what happens next." Violet steps forward. "We're implementing immediate changes to ensure all guests receive equal treatment, regardless of appearance, background, or status. This incident, while painful, creates an opportunity to reaffirm our commitment to inclusive dining experiences." Their measured response, accepting responsibility while outlining concrete solutions, earns public support. The hashtag #StandWithSapphire begins trending as customers share positive experiences at other locations. But scrutiny intensifies on Jason. Former employees, emboldened by the public attention, come forward with similar stories. A line cook from 3 years ago describes witnessing systematic discrimination against customers of color. A hostess details being instructed to seat certain types away from window tables. Jason's professional reputation collapses as industry peers distance themselves. Culinary organizations remove his name from their membership directories. A cooking demonstration he was scheduled to lead next month is canceled without explanation. His phone, once constantly buzzing with industry connections, falls silent except for reporters seeking comment. Friends don't return calls. Former mentors publicly expressed disappointment. 3 days after the video emerged, Jason faces the company's ethics committee for his formal hearing, the final evaluation of his professional fate. He enters the room a changed man, humbled by the overwhelming evidence and public condemnation. The committee members sit in stern judgment. Executives, legal counsel, and 2 restaurant industry leaders brought in as independent evaluators. The proceedings are recorded for legal purposes. Chef Whitley, begins the committee chair, you've had time to review all evidence against you. Do you wish to make a statement before we render our decision? Jason rises slowly, his prepared speech abandoned as he confronts the full weight of his actions. I came here planning to defend myself, he begins, voice unsteady. I had explanations, justifications, but there's no defending what I did. He pauses, gathering himself. I've spent days watching that video, seeing myself through others' eyes. I didn't recognize the person I've become. The things I said, the way I treated the Parkers, and who knows how many others over the years, it's indefensible. For the first time, Jason speaks without deflection or excuse. I violated everything hospitality stands for. I've damaged this company, hurt people who trusted me, and betrayed the profession I love. Whatever your decision, I accept it. The committee deliberates briefly before delivering their verdict, termination with cause. Jason's employment ends immediately. He must complete anti-bias training before they'll provide even basic references for future employment. As he surrenders his company property, laptop, phone, remaining keys, the reality of his professional extinction settles over him. 8 years of career building, erased by 6 minutes of exposed bias. Outside the building, reporters wait like predators. Jason slips out a service entrance, avoiding the cameras but not the weight of public judgment that will follow him into an uncertain future. As Jason drives away from corporate headquarters, his phone buzzes with a notification. The National Restaurant Association has just announced a new industry-wide initiative addressing discrimination in fine dining, inspired by recent events at Sapphire Dining Group. 6 weeks after the incident, Marius stands at a podium addressing the National Restaurant Association's annual leadership conference. The audience of industry executives, chefs, and restaurateurs fills the grand ballroom, their attention focused entirely on him. Hospitality means generous and friendly treatment of visitors and guests, he begins. Not some visitors, not certain guests, all of them. His words carry the weight of lived experience. Behind him, a screen displays the new industry-wide certification program developed in partnership with Sapphire Dining Group. Inclusive Hospitality Initiative. The program establishes concrete standards for equitable service, bias training requirements, and accountability metrics for restaurants seeking certification. What happened at our restaurant exposed a painful truth, Marius continues. Many establishments talk about welcome while practicing exclusion. Today we change that conversation. In the front row, Violet watches her husband with pride. As the architect of Sapphire's reformed policies, she spent weeks transforming a crisis into an opportunity for industry-wide reflection. Across town, at Sapphire's flagship location, the site of Jason's downfall, a transformation is underway. The restaurant has reopened under new leadership. Executive chef Zoe Chen, the server who documented Jason's pattern of discrimination. Her promotion from server to executive chef raised eyebrows, until food critics discovered her background. A culinary school graduate who couldn't break the glass ceiling at other establishments despite her talent. We looked within our own ranks and found extraordinary talent being wasted, Violet explains to a journalist documenting the changes. Zoe had the skills all along. She just needed the opportunity. The restaurant's reservation system has been completely overhauled. The new technology eliminates subjective table assignments by implementing rotation protocols that ensure equitable seating. Host staff undergo weekly training sessions on recognizing and addressing unconscious bias. In the kitchen, the culture has transformed. Line cooks from diverse backgrounds now have clear advancement paths. The brigade system remains, but without the toxic hierarchy that silenced concerns under Jason's regime. Industry publications that initially treated the incident as scandalous entertainment now publish thoughtful analyses of systemic issues in fine dining. A leading culinary magazine dedicates its cover story to examining how prestigious restaurants subtly signal who belongs through everything from music selection to dress code enforcement. The impact extends beyond Sapphire's 58 locations. Competing restaurant groups implement similar reforms, recognizing both the moral imperative and business advantage of inclusive practices. Reservation platforms add features allowing guests to report discriminatory treatment. Culinary schools revise curricula to include mandatory courses on equitable hospitality. Data from Sapphire's locations reveals an unexpected business outcome. As inclusive practices take root, customer satisfaction scores rise across all demographics. Average check sizes increase. Employee retention improves significantly, reducing costly turnover. This isn't just the right thing to do. It's good business, Marius tells the conference attendees. When every guest feels truly welcome, they spend more, return more frequently, and become ambassadors for your brand. As for Jason Whitley, his name has become cautionary shorthand in industry conversations. While he's disappeared from public view, his impact remains, not as the chef he aspired to be, but as the catalyst for overdue change. At the conference, a restaurant owner approaches the microphone during Q&A. We've implemented your inclusive policies, but how do we address resistance from longtime customers who prefer the old exclusive atmosphere? 1 year after the incident, Marius and Violet Parker stand in the kitchen of their original Sapphire location, the small restaurant where everything began 9 years ago. The space feels intimate compared to their newer establishments, but it holds the soul of their vision. Violet adjusts the framed mission statement hanging prominently on the wall. To create spaces where everyone experiences the dignity of exceptional service. The words, once aspirational, now serve as a daily reminder of lessons painfully learned. I never thought our wedding trip would transform the company this way, she says, straightening a photo beside it, the two of them on opening day, younger and terrified, but determined. Marius slips his arm around her waist. Sometimes transformation requires disruption. The restaurant has just closed after dinner service. The staff, more diverse than ever, finish their closing duties with efficient camaraderie. There's an ease to their interactions that speaks to the cultural shift across all Sapphire locations. Chef wants to know if you'll taste the new spring menu items, calls the sous chef, a young woman who came through their recently established culinary apprenticeship program targeting underrepresented communities. They move to the tasting table, where executive chef Raymond Williams, who replaced Zoe after her promotion to culinary director, presents his seasonal creations. Raymond, a veteran chef who left retirement to help implement Sapphire's new kitchen culture, places plates before them with quiet confidence. I've adapted Dr. Parker's grandmother's spring pea soup, he explains, added a modern interpretation while respecting the original. This acknowledgement of culinary heritage, once obscured by Jason's appropriation, has become standard practice throughout Sapphire. Every menu now credits the cultural origins of signature dishes. As they taste, Violet makes notes on flavor profiles while Marius reviews the latest company metrics on his tablet. The numbers tell a compelling story: customer satisfaction at record highs, staff turnover at historic lows, and profits exceeding projections across all locations. The industry report came in, Marius mentions between bites. 43% of fine dining establishments have adopted our inclusive service protocols. The certification program has 300 applications pending. The transformation extends beyond their company. The incident that began with humiliation has catalyzed industry-wide reflection. Restaurant critics now routinely evaluate establishments on equitable service practices alongside food and ambiance. Culinary schools incorporate bias awareness into core curricula. As for Jason Whitley, they rarely speak his name. After completing mandated sensitivity training, he opened a small catering business in another state. humbled, but employed. His story serves as a case study in hospitality management courses on how unchecked bias destroys careers and damages organizations. Later that evening, in their home office, Violet reviews applications for their foundation's culinary scholarship program, supporting aspiring chefs from underrepresented backgrounds. The initiative, funded by a percentage of Sapphire's profits, represents their commitment to addressing hospitality's systemic inequities. "Sometimes I wonder if we should thank him," Violet muses, setting aside the applications. "Without that night, would we have seen what was happening in our own company?" Marius considers this. "Perhaps, but I prefer to focus on what we built from that moment, not what caused it." They've declined dozens of interview requests about the incident, preferring their actions to speak louder than words. The changes implemented, transparent reservation systems, bias training, diverse hiring practices, equitable advancement opportunities, have become their true statement. "The best restaurants don't just feed people," Marius says, echoing the closing line from his speech at last month's Industry Awards, where Sapphire received recognition for leadership in workplace equity. "They nourish dignity through genuine hospitality. Everyone deserves a seat at the table." True hospitality sees the human before the customer. Dignity isn't reserved for those who look the part. If you've made it this far in our story, you've witnessed something powerful, a moment when justice was served not through violence or revenge, but through accountability and transformation. The story of the Parkers and Chef Jason Whitley reflects realities many face daily in restaurants, stores, and public spaces across the country. We want to hear from you now. Has someone ever made you feel unwelcome somewhere you had every right to be? How did you respond? Your experiences matter, and sharing them helps others know they're not alone. Don't forget to subscribe to Beat Stories and hit that notification bell so you never miss our powerful real-life justice stories. If this video resonated with you, smash that like button. It helps our channel reach more people who need these stories of accountability and empowerment. Join our growing Beat Stories community, where we expose the moments when the tables turn and justice is served.
This isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of what happens when truth meets visibility. At Beat Stories, we believe exposure is the first step to transformation. Subscribe and stay tuned, because the next story might be yours.